in 2024, the compulsory text was the Samaritan. And the question wanted you to talk about determination, and you had to draw illustrations using Teacher Nicole. So let's imagine that Teacher Nicole has already been sorted. Which other characters can we use? Let's see. I want a parallel question. Then I'll remove Professor Kimani here. Because Nicole has already been used, I'll use Alvita and Montano's insecurities. Insecurities are evidence of impact of failed leadership on citizens. It works, it will work. And here maybe we can specify. Alvita and Montano's insecurities are evidence of the impact of failed municipal leadership, insinuating that when our leaders fail, even the children suffer. So Alvita and Montano are very insecure, and it is because of poor leadership by the municipal council. So Alvita and Montano are at the center here. Let's assume that this is the equivalent of the 2025 question. What are some of the points that you'll be able to bring out? Let's see how many we can raise. Let's go scene by scene. Number one, the failed launch. No, before even the failed launch, there's this play within a play that Alvita and Montano stage in order to introduce the Samaritan with the help of Teacher Nicole. So that can give us a point, in the sense that when the municipal leaders who had attended, including the mayor, discover how the Samaritan is going to work, it's going to brush shoulders with them, they begin to be harsh towards Alvita. So Alvita and Montano, as they are presenting. So the harassment, what is the spelling of harass? The harassment during that presentation, when they were introducing the Samaritan, it caused the children insecurity. And then the failed launch. Eventually, the mayor refuses to launch the Samaritan because of his personal interests. What happens? Teachers and students file out, and they are murmurs. Everybody is wondering, now why is this happening? Now imagine Alvita and Montano, the owners of that innovation. How did it feel? It must have felt terrible. And they begin to be insecure, because if the mayor is against them, imagine two young, a boy and a girl, fighting with the mayor on a concept that they thought was quite noble, then it causes insecurity. Then later on, they begin to fear for their teacher, that is Teacher Nicole, because of the mayor's ultimatum. Remember the ultimatum? Ultimatum. I think that is the spelling, ultimatum. The mayor had given Teacher Nicole an ultimatum that she should write a letter to the ministry expressing reservations about the innovation. And so when the children, shortly before the mayor comes back to try and talk to Nicole so that she can edit some of the things that are coming out about them in the Samaritan, the children already have gone to Teacher Nicole, and they are worried stiff that their teacher could be in trouble. So they are insecure. Their teacher could be in trouble. Here they were insecure because their item, their innovation has landed, has not landed well with the mayor, has brushed shoulders with the mayor. So that was the insecurity. Here it is their teacher. They are worried about the teacher, and they would like her to sort of stop the Samaritan and let them continue with their lives, because it has become something so big that they are afraid they are not going to be able to manage it. Then the next part is when Bembe, after the mayor has failed to talk to Teacher Nicole in order to help him out on matters, the Samaritan, Bembe visits the school in order to intimidate Nicole into getting rid of the Samaritan. He comes at a time when a lesson is going on. The children, Alvita, Montano, and other students are in class and they are learning about the spirit, the bad spirit, the good spirit. Narine, the principal, comes with Bembe to class, and Teacher Nicole is taken from class while the children are watching. And although it is not forceful, but a uniformed officer, and not just a uniformed officer, the inspector of police himself is there to fetch Teacher Nicole, because there's a case he is handling, and Teacher Nicole might be a person of interest. You know that already. Although we were not told how the reaction of the children, it is traumatizing. And then lastly, Inspector Tajo comes to arrest the leaders, but the children think that he is there to arrest Teacher Nicole. That is insecurity. So you can see that still we can use this question, shift to Alvita and Montano, then change the challenges into insecurities, and we have a question, and give it the same treatment that Knec gave the 2025 question. The last thing I want us to look at is the introduction. The introduction. What shifts were evident in the marking of 2025 English Paper 3 when it came to the introduction? Number one, the introduction is either a full or no introduction. It's either a 0 or a 2. There's no one, there's no fair. So going forward, I'll not be shocked if next year the same thing happens, that you can't give a candidate a 1. It must be a 0 or a 2. Now, I want to write 3 introductions here to demonstrate something very quickly. Professor Kimani suffers because of poor governance. Professor Kimani suffers because of poor governance. That is a full introduction. As brief as it looks, that is introduction full. Because we can see Professor Kimani suffering, and because of poor governance. He has challenges. So the suffering and the poor governance were supposed to come out very clearly. Another introduction. Professor Kimani suffers because of poor governance. For instance, he loses his wife and daughter because of the government. Another good introduction, I full. Something changed in the last marking, that is 2025. Professor Kimani loses his wife to an MP who he fights and is imprisoned. That is not an introduction, guys. Those of you who have been using an example, a point, a sample, you know, you go to the points that you raised, then you sample one and use it for your introduction. Be careful. Things have changed. You can only do that after some paraphrase like this. But then when you mention it, you don't go all the way. Like in this introduction here, we can see that there's a challenge. Then there's the link, the MP, Member of Parliament, is the link to the government. And then the fighting and imprisonment is the suffering. So you see, this is a point. So this one will be treated as that point where we said ASEA's desertion. It could be either ASEA's desertion or imprisonment, one of those, and it will be a theme. So there will be no introduction. No introduction. Guys, I want you to take this very seriously, because I know I could also be a victim, because I have taught some of the candidates, some of my students, I have taught them to use one of the points as an example, so that I tell them, you can write an introduction in many ways. You can use one of the points, sample one of the points. If you sample one of those points and you take it home, taking it home means by tackling it to the end, meaning that you give us the challenge, you give us the link to government, then you also give some suffering, then it is treated as a point and not an introduction. So be very, very careful. Paraphrase is the safest way of introducing your essay. And I know most of you know that the introduction does not necessarily introduce your essay. When it comes to paper 3 English, the introduction does not introduce your essay. The introduction is one way of telling the examiner that you really know what you are going to write about. So you make it known that you have understood the question and you know exactly how to handle it in the introduction. That is what you must demonstrate. Don't introduce your essay. If it were to introduce your essay, then you will repeat the question and we will accept. You cannot repeat the question, because you must demonstrate that you know exactly what is expected of you in that question. Same to the conclusion. You cannot, when you are doing your conclusion, you should not tackle a point. You should not look like you're tackling a point. You know, you should conclude your essay, and conclusions should come even easier than introductions, so that we see that Professor Kimani's suffering is because of the poor governance.